Sell my jewelry? Are you joking? I've already done enough. If you want to die, then just die. I can't do anything more for you. Marcus was stunned. The woman he had loved and trusted. Once upon a time, in the heart of Atlanta, Georgia, a city renowned for its tree-lined streets and lively atmosphere, there lived a man named Marcus Brown. Marcus was the kind of man everyone in the neighborhood admired. He was not only hardworking, but also the cornerstone of a small, loving family. To him, nothing mattered more than bringing joy and happiness to his wife and twin daughters. Marcus was married to Leona, a beautiful woman whose radiant smile lit up the room like the morning sun. Leona was not just a devoted wife, but also a loving mother to their two adorable daughters, Maya and Lila. With their softly curled hair and sparkling eyes, the two girls were the light of Marcus and Leona's lives. The Brown family was considered the ideal example of harmony and warmth by their neighbors in the suburban community of South Atlanta. Their house, though modest, was always filled with laughter. Every afternoon, Marcus returned home from a long day working at the local construction company, while Leona managed a small household goods store in the area. At the store, Leona was known not only for her graceful demeanor, but also for her kind treatment of customers. Regulars often remarked that her smile alone could brighten their entire day. Dinner was the family's favorite time of day. Gathered around the table, Leona prepared simple yet nutritious meals. In the gentle golden glow of a small chandelier, Marcus would share stories from his workday with his wife and daughters. Maya and Lila, in their innocent childhood charm, eagerly took turns sharing tales of school games or their newfound friends in the neighborhood. Marcus loved his family more than anything in the world. Those tranquil evenings became his motivation to work hard and dream of a brighter future for his wife and daughters. Leona, her eyes brimming with hope, often reassured her husband. "We don't need more than what we have, Marcus. This family is everything to me." Yet deep within his heart, Marcus yearned for more, not out of ambition or selfishness, but because he wanted the very best for his family. He dreamed of one day moving Leona and the girls into a bigger home, a place with enough space for Maya and Lila to run and play freely without worrying about bumping into furniture. Neighbors often said that the Brown family was like a perfect portrait, a symbol of peace and happiness that many around them longed to have. But as in all fairy tales, that happiness was not destined to last forever. Life has a way of testing even the strongest hearts, and the Brown family was no exception. Underlying tensions began to build, and the peaceful days within their warm, cozy home were on the brink of becoming a distant memory. On a warm, sunny afternoon in downtown Atlanta, Marcus attended a community event, a place where he often met friends and made new acquaintances. The atmosphere was lively, filled with laughter and spirited conversations about business opportunities. Unbeknownst to Marcus, this fateful encounter would completely alter the course of his life. While chatting with a sophisticated man, Marcus was introduced to a promising real estate project. The man spoke with confidence and persuasion, presenting enticing figures of potential profits and sharing success stories of previous investors. Vivid images of luxury apartments and modern commercial areas were painted so compellingly that Marcus, who had always dreamed of improving his family's life, couldn't help but be drawn in. "Marcus, this isn't just an opportunity," the man said, his sharp gaze seemingly reading Marcus's thoughts. "This is your chance to turn your dreams into reality. Don't let this slip away." Those words echoed in Marcus's mind throughout the night. He envisioned Maya and Lila growing up in a spacious, beautiful home, attending the best schools, and Leona no longer needing to manage the small shop. He believed this project was the key to a brighter future. The next morning, Marcus made a bold decision. He invested the family's entire savings, money that he and Leona had carefully saved over more than a decade, into the project. But it wasn't enough. Marcus decided to mortgage their modest home, the once happy sanctuary of their family, to secure a loan from a bank in Buckhead, Atlanta's bustling financial district. Leona was initially worried. "Marcus, are we taking too big a risk?" But he reassured her. "This is for our future, Leona. I can't let you and the girls live like this forever." Trust me, we'll have a better life." Leona trusted her husband. She had always known Marcus to be a loving family man who strived to provide the best for them. She held his hand, hoping that this decision would be the right one. At first, everything seemed to go smoothly. Marcus received documents, detailed project information, and even photos of developments under construction. He felt a sense of relief, believing he had made the right choice. But just a few weeks later, things began to unravel. Calls to his partners went unanswered, and the office address where Marcus had signed the contract was suddenly vacant. Marcus started feeling uneasy. He drove to Midtown, where the project's headquarters was supposed to be, but all he found was an abandoned building with shattered glass windows. His heart pounded, sweat beaded on his forehead, and a wave of panic engulfed him. Shortly afterward, Marcus received a letter from the bank. The cold, impersonal words cut through him like a knife. "Your loan is due. Please remit payment, or the collateral will be seized." Marcus collapsed into a chair, his hands clutching his head. He realized he had been scammed. All the dreams of a better life for his family now lay shattered like broken glass. The house, which held so many sweet memories for the Brown family, was now at risk of no longer being theirs. On the drive home, dark thoughts consumed Marcus's mind. How could he face his wife and daughters when he was the one who had placed the family in this predicament? Although he had no answers, he knew he couldn't avoid the truth forever. When the letter from the bank arrived, Marcus felt as though his world had collapsed. The cold, impersonal figures in the letter marked the end of the home he and Leona had worked so hard to build. They had no time left to salvage the situation. Standing before the door of the house that once echoed with laughter, Marcus knew it would be the last time he saw his family within those walls. Early the next morning, bank officials arrived with foreclosure papers in hand. Marcus silently signed his name, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He glanced at Leona, searching for solace in her eyes, but her gaze was empty, void of words. Behind her, Maya and Lila stood silently, too young to understand what was happening, though their innocent eyes reflected an emerging fear. The Brown family was forced to move to a small house in South Fulton, a poor and unfamiliar area. Their new home, if it could be called that, was a rundown apartment with peeling walls, broken windows, and a neighborhood filled with noise and unease. Gone were the lush green parks and children's laughter. Instead, the wail of police sirens echoed through the night, accompanied by the flickering glow of dim streetlights. That first night in the new home, the air in the room was heavy, like storm clouds on the verge of bursting. Leona, usually strong and composed, sat quietly on an old wooden chair, her hands trembling as she clutched a family photo taken in their old house. Maya and Lila huddled together on a thin mattress, spread on the floor, trying to mask their unease. Marcus entered the living room, his steps heavy, as if carrying the weight of the world. He knew he needed to say something, but every word seemed caught in his throat. Finally, he sank to his knees before Leona, taking her hands in his. His voice trembled, filled with regret. "Leona, I'm sorry. I've lost everything for our family. My blind dreams have led us into this disaster. Please be patient with me. I promise, no matter how hard it gets, I'll do everything to help us overcome this." Leona, though heartbroken, looked at Marcus with tender eyes. Tears streamed down her face, but she didn't turn away from him. Placing her hand on his shoulder, she whispered, her voice shaking yet full of love. "Herr Marcus, we are a family. As long as we have each other, I believe we can face anything. Promise me that you won't give up, for me and for the girls." Leona's words pierced through the darkness surrounding Marcus. For the first time, he felt he wasn't alone in this battle. In that moment, amidst the pain and loss, the Brown family found the strength to move forward. The first days in South Fulton were an unforgiving test. Marcus threw himself into finding any work he could, repairing houses, hauling goods at warehouses in nearby East Point, and taking any odd jobs he could find. Leona refused to sit idle. She took on small tasks like laundry and cooking for neighbors. Maya and Lila tried their best to adjust to their new environment, even though attending an underfunded public school was far from easy. Despite everything, the promises they made and the unity within the Brown family became the driving force that kept them moving forward. At night, under the faint glow of their small home, they knew they still had one another, and that was the one thing no one could take away. What lies ahead for the Brown family? Follow the channel and stay tuned for the gripping continuation of their story. Life in South Fulton tested the Brown family not just financially, but also shook the very foundations of their pride, love, and unity. In their first days in the new neighborhood, Marcus threw himself into every job he could find. From repairing furniture and working construction in downtown Atlanta to delivering packages to far-flung areas, Marcus did it all, hoping that every penny he earned might help his family through their struggles. Leona, who had always stood by Marcus's side, refused to sit idle. She took on odd jobs like cooking and cleaning for neighbors to contribute to the household income. The image of a woman once accustomed to comfort, now scrubbing floors and wearing flour-dusted clothes while baking for a local restaurant, was something even Leona could never have imagined. Maya and Lila, the two innocent girls, also had to adapt to their new reality. They started attending a small public school in College Park, a far cry from their previous school with its well-maintained facilities. Yet the resilience of childhood allowed them to gradually fit in, making friends with local children. Maya and Lila often brought home cheerful stories about their new games and friendships, providing a flicker of light in the darkness of their situation. The endless weeks of grueling work, long nights spent at the kitchen table, and mornings that began with daunting to-do lists slowly wore Leona down. Her weariness grew day by day. One evening, as Marcus returned home after a long day, his face etched with exhaustion, Leona suddenly broke down in tears. Unable to contain her emotions, her words spilled out in a storm of anger and frustration. "Oh, Marcus, I can't keep doing this. I'm not made to clean and cook all day. This isn't the life I wanted. You have to do something to get us out of this mess." In her disappointment, Leona placed the weight of her frustrations squarely on Marcus, demanding that he do more. Marcus, though heartbroken, remained silent. He knew Leona was only human and the hardships were taking a toll on her spirit, but her words added another heavy burden to his already overburdened shoulders. That night, when the family had gone to bed, Marcus sat alone at the kitchen table, his head in his hands, wondering if he had the strength to pull his family out of the abyss. The next morning, Marcus resolved to take on even more work. He sought out construction projects in Decatur, where he spent countless hours under the blazing sun, building walls and repairing old rooftops. Once the construction work ended, he would return to the neighborhood, fixing furniture for extra money. Marcus worked from dawn until late into the night, his hands rough and calloused, his body drained of energy. Days turned into endless weeks, and weeks stretched into grueling months. Yet, despite his relentless efforts, Marcus's earnings were barely enough to keep the family fed. Though he tried to hide his fatigue from his wife and daughters, the strain of worry and despair was evident in his eyes. Leona began to withdraw. The evenings they once spent sitting together, sharing dreams and hopes, were now filled with uncomfortable silences. She no longer saw in Marcus the strong man who had promised her and their children a better life. And Marcus, despite his best efforts, was at a loss for how to turn things around. Life became a monotonous cycle of endless work and fading dreams. What Marcus couldn't foresee was the storm looming ahead. A storm that would threaten not just their possessions or time, but the very trust and bond their family had always held dear. What will happen next in the Browns' story? Follow the channel to catch the dramatic twists and turns awaiting them. Life in South Fulton continued to test the Browns, pushing their resilience to its limits. Despite the grueling manual labor and endless hours, Marcus clung to the hope that their hardships were only temporary. Every day, he worked from dawn until late at night, returning home exhausted yet forcing a smile to reassure his wife and daughters. But the harder he worked, the more distant Leona seemed to become. Leona began to change. Once a steadfast partner in Marcus's struggles, she grew increasingly distant and spent less time at home. Days that Marcus spent laboring were ones Leona spent frequenting upscale cafes and restaurants in Midtown Atlanta. Surrounded by the glow of elegant lights and the soft hum of music, these places became her refuge from the relentless pressure of their reality. There, she began meeting other men, wealthy, polished, and unburdened by financial struggles like Marcus. Rumors about Leona's behavior quickly spread through the neighborhood. The same neighbors who once admired the Brown family now whispered behind their backs. They spoke of Leona being seen stepping out of luxury cars and wearing elegant outfits far beyond what anyone in their modest community could afford. One afternoon, Marcus received an unexpected call from Mr. James, an elderly neighbor who lived across the street. "Marcus," Mr. James said hesitantly over the phone, "I don't mean to intrude on your family's matters, but I think you should keep an eye on Leona. Something doesn't seem right." The words struck Marcus like a dagger to the heart. He wanted to dismiss the idea, to convince himself it was just gossip, but doubt began to fester in his mind. That evening, after dinner, Marcus mustered the courage to confront Leona. Under the dim light of their small kitchen, he looked her in the eyes, his voice steady but tinged with pain. "Leona, are you hiding something from me? I've heard people talking. They say you've been meeting strangers often. I don't want to believe them, but I need you to tell me the truth." Leona, caught off guard, reacted quickly. Tears streamed down her face, her voice trembling with both hurt and anger. "Marcus, how could you think that of me? These neighbors just want to ruin our family. Don't you see how envious they are of us? I've sacrificed so much for you and the kids, and now you're doubting me." Marcus's heart ached as he watched her cry. As a devoted husband, he couldn't bear to see Leona in pain. But deep down, a quiet unease lingered. Despite this, his love for Leona, the woman who had once been his everything, won out. With a heavy sigh, he said softly, "I'm sorry, Leona. I shouldn't have doubted you. I'm just so afraid of losing this family." Leona said nothing in response, turning her face away. For a moment, her expression flickered with something Marcus couldn't quite decipher. In the days that followed, the tension between them only deepened. Marcus continued to bury himself in work, hoping the strain on their marriage would ease with time. Yet, Leona's behavior grew increasingly detached. She spoke to him less and was often away from home with vague explanations. On some nights, Marcus would wake in the middle of the night only to find the bed beside him empty. He felt helpless, unsure of where to begin to salvage their marriage. Meanwhile, Leona seemed to carve out a new life for herself, a life that Marcus found himself excluded from. This growing divide left Marcus grappling with a sense of loss, not just of the future they once dreamed of, but also of the woman who had been his anchor through life's trials. The Browns' once unshakable bond now seemed perilously close to breaking, and Marcus could only wonder how long they could hold on. The Brown family's struggles seemed endless, like an unrelenting storm that refused to pass. Marcus worked tirelessly, clinging to the hope that his efforts might bring a glimmer of light to their darkened lives. Meanwhile, Leona, now seemingly a different person, continued to live in her own world. One painted with extravagant parties, glittering lights, and empty promises from wealthy men she had begun associating with. One evening, while Marcus was still working late, 9-year-old Lila overheard a disturbing conversation between her mother and a strange man. Leona's voice, usually warm and gentle, had taken on a cold and cryptic tone. "Don't worry, when she's older, I'll arrange for you to meet her." The words froze Lila in her tracks. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her mother, the woman who had once cradled her after nightmares, was now saying something that sounded terrifying. With a trembling heart, Lila ran to Marcus as soon as he returned home. "Daddy," she sobbed, "I heard Mummy talking to a man. She said she'll let him meet me when I'm older." Marcus, exhausted and worn down from another grueling day, looked into his daughter's tearful eyes, but instead of believing her, he sighed, patted her head gently and said, "Lila, you must have misheard. Your mother would never do anything to hurt you." Disheartened and confused, Lila fell silent. She didn't know how to convince her father that what she heard was real. As time went on, the physical and emotional toll of Marcus's relentless work and family tensions began to show. One day, while working at a construction site in Decatur, Marcus felt dizzy and collapsed. His co-workers rushed him to the hospital where doctors diagnosed him with a serious illness. Immediate treatment was necessary, but the medical expenses were far beyond what the family could afford. Returning home with this devastating news, Marcus tried to stay calm to avoid adding to his family's burdens. He shared his diagnosis with Leona, hoping she would support him in his darkest hour. Instead, her response cut deeper than anything he could have imagined. "Sell my jewelry? Are you joking? I've already done enough. If you want to die, then just die. I can't do anything more for you." Marcus was stunned. The woman he had loved and trusted, the partner he had built his life with, now felt like a stranger. Red-eyed and struggling to hold back his anger and heartbreak, he replied, "I've done everything for this family. I've given up everything for you and the kids. You can't abandon me like this." Leona turned away cold and silent and walked into the bedroom without another word. In the corner of the house, Lila and Maya had been quietly watching their parents. Too young to fully grasp the situation, they nonetheless felt the tension and sorrow in their father's eyes. Lila hugged her younger sister tightly and whispered, "Maya, we have to do something to help Daddy." The tale of the Brown family continues, fraught with heartbreaking challenges. Marcus, a devoted father, now faces not only a debilitating illness, but also the betrayal of the wife he once loved so deeply. Yet, amidst this darkness, the steadfast loyalty of his daughters shines through. Lila and Maya, forced to mature beyond their years, begin seeking ways to save their family from despair. This emotional journey, filled with moments of resilience, betrayal, and hope, leaves the audience rooting for Marcus and his daughters to overcome their trials. Stay tuned for the next chapter of this poignant and gripping story. The financial strain on the Brown family deepened as Marcus's health deteriorated day by day. His persistent cough echoed through the tiny house, casting an even heavier gloom over an already tense atmosphere. Lila and Maya, though young, were acutely aware of their family's dire situation. Meals were becoming more meager, and doctor visits for Marcus were now a luxury beyond reach. One evening, as Marcus lay exhausted on the old couch, Lila turned to Maya, her eyes filled with worry, and whispered, "We have to do something to help Dad. I can't just sit here and watch him get worse." Maya nodded silently, though neither of them knew what to do. They both understood that their only hope lay with their mother, Leona. Despite Leona's growing detachment, Lila resolved to confront her, hoping against hope for her support. The next day, Lila gathered all her courage and entered her mother's room. Leona sat at her vanity, the light from the mirror reflecting her sharp but cold beauty. When Lila mentioned needing money to save her father, Leona smirked, a smile that made Lila's heart sink. "Money?" Leona said, her voice icy. "Do you think money falls from the sky? I'm not just going to hand it over without something in return." Lila's throat tightened, but she pressed on, her voice trembling. "Mum, please, Dad won't survive without treatment. I'm begging you, help him." Leona paused, her face showing a fleeting moment of contemplation before she turned to Lila, her tone almost taunting. "Yeah, fine. I'll help. But you have to do something for me. There's a man. He wants to meet you. If you agree to meet him and do as he asks, I'll give you the money." The words struck Lila like a lightning bolt. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Mum, what are you saying? I can't do that. You can't ask me to do this," Lila cried, tears streaming down her face. Unmoved by her daughter's anguish, Leona responded coldly, "If you don't want to, then forget about the money. I don't have time for charity." That night, Lila lay in bed, stifling her sobs to avoid waking Maya. Images of her father, the man who had sacrificed everything for his family, now helpless and fading, tormented her mind. The thought that she could save him if she agreed to her mother's condition gnawed at her soul. Lila knew this decision would scar her forever, but the fear of losing her father outweighed everything. After a sleepless night, she made the unthinkable choice. She would accept her mother's terms. The next morning, Lila entered her mother's room, her voice trembling but her gaze unwavering. "I'll do what you want, but you have to promise me that Dad will get the money for his treatment." Leona smiled triumphantly, a cold satisfaction in her expression. She picked up the phone and called the man she had mentioned, arranging everything with a chilling calmness. When the arrangements were finalized, Lila felt as though her heart was being torn apart. She walked into a room with the stranger, carrying a weight no child should ever have to bear. When it was over, she returned home with a small amount of money, far less than Leona had promised. Clutching the money in her trembling hands, Lila looked at her father's pale, frail face and felt a piece of her own heart die. She knew the money wasn't enough to save him, and the thought of having to endure such an ordeal again filled her with dread. In that moment, Lila realized the depth of her sacrifice and the cruel truth of her mother's betrayal. She had given up a part of herself for the man she loved most, yet it might not be enough to save him. The weight of her choice hung heavy, leaving her wondering how much more she could endure for the sake of her family. The death of Marcus struck the Brown family like an earthquake, collapsing the fragile remnants of their unity. The devoted father who had sacrificed everything to give his family a better life was now a painful memory etched in the hearts of his two daughters. Their small home in South Fulton, once a place of love and struggle, became cold and empty in his absence. Amid the mourning, Leona emerged with a calm yet calculating demeanor. She demanded that her daughters move with her to a new house in Brookhaven, a wealthier area where she now lived, supported by the generosity of affluent men she had come to know. With no other place to turn, Maria and Maya reluctantly agreed. From the very first days in Brookhaven, Maria realized that the new house offered neither the safety nor happiness she had hoped for. Instead, it was a gilded cage, a luxurious trap where Leona continued to dictate their lives. Wealthy men frequently visited the house, their lingering gazes on Maria making her feel increasingly uneasy. One day, Leona approached Maria, her tone soft but laden with coercion. "You're grown up now, Maria. It's time for you to help me maintain what we have. I can't do this alone." Maria understood exactly what Leona meant. This wasn't the first time her mother had pressured her to compromise her values. Tears welled up in Maria's eyes, but she bit her lip, refusing to let herself break. She knew that if she didn't act soon, she would be trapped in this darkness forever. One night, under the cover of silence, Maria packed her belongings. She knew she couldn't take Maya with her, fearing that their simultaneous disappearance would make it easier for Leona to track them. With a heavy heart and overwhelming guilt, Maria fled the house, running from her mother's control. She wandered through neighborhoods until she stumbled upon a small church in Decatur. The warm light streaming through the windows felt like an invitation, offering solace in her darkest moment. Maria stepped inside, tears streaming down her face, and collapsed in front of a priest. "Please help me," she sobbed. "I have nowhere else to go." At the church, Maria met Barry, a kind-hearted young man who was the son of a wealthy businessman in the area. Barry volunteered at the church every weekend, participating in charity work to help those in need. When he saw Maria, her tear-streaked face and resilient spirit immediately caught his attention. "Are you okay?" Barry asked gently. Maria shook her head, her eyes red and swollen. "I don't know what to do. I just want to escape my mother and everything she's forced me to endure." Barry didn't need to hear more. He understood that Maria needed help more than anything else. Without hesitation, he took her to a safe place, a small house owned by his family on the outskirts of Decatur. There, Barry provided her with a haven, listening to her story and becoming a source of strength in her darkest hours. Barry not only helped Maria escape Leona's grasp, but also protected her from the predatory men who had tried to exploit her. With Barry's support, Maria gradually regained her confidence and began to feel that she had finally found someone who genuinely cared for her, with no ulterior motives. But freedom came with its challenges. When Leona discovered that Maria had fled, she launched an all-out effort to find her. This posed a new test for Maria and Barry: how to protect the fragile sense of freedom Maria had just reclaimed. As Leona's relentless pursuit loomed over them, Maria and Barry's journey toward healing and safety became a battle not only for independence, but also for the chance to build a life unshackled by the shadows of the past. Would Maria finally be able to escape Leona's control for good? Or would her mother's reach pull her back into the darkness? Stay tuned for the next chapter as Maria faces the ultimate test of her courage and determination to protect her newfound freedom. Maria and Barry, despite the barriers and prejudice they faced, chose to forge their own path for love. Barry's father, a wealthy but conservative businessman, staunchly opposed their relationship. He doubted that Maria, a young woman carrying the scars of her past, was worthy of joining his prestigious family. Yet Barry, unwavering in his love and determination, stood firm against the pressure. The couple left behind the criticism and whispers, starting a new life together in New York City, a place known as the Land of Dreams. In this bustling metropolis, Maria began to discover the true meaning of freedom, not just from her mother's control, but also from the painful memories that had once held her captive. With Barry's unwavering love and support, Maria embarked on a new chapter in her life, transforming from a victim of her past into the architect of her future. Maria's journey is not only a tale of escape from darkness, but also a profound reminder of the power of love, sacrifice, and determination. She faced seemingly insurmountable challenges, from her mother's betrayal to the enduring psychological wounds of her past. Yet, with Barry's love and support, she found the strength to rise and build a new life. Barry, with his steadfast love and belief in Maria, serves as a model of someone willing to protect and uplift the person they cherish, no matter the odds. Their story illustrates that when we choose love and trust, we can overcome even the greatest adversities. The story also offers a cautionary message about the consequences of poor choices. Leona, who once had the chance to provide peace and stability for her family, allowed selfishness and personal ambition to guide her actions. Her misguided decisions not only plunged her family into crisis, but also brought deep sorrow upon herself. This serves as a reminder that every choice we make carries consequences, and sometimes the price is immeasurable. Maria and Barry's story is not just a tale of individual triumph, but also a reflection of the strength and resilience within the African American community. If you're part of this community, take pride in inheriting a rich and powerful cultural legacy. Stories like this are not just memories, but valuable life lessons that remind us of the enduring power of love and perseverance. It's essential to preserve and share such stories to stay connected to our past and honor our cultural heritage. Folktales like these remind us that no matter how difficult life becomes, love and determination are the guiding lights that lead us forward. Does Maria and Barry's story inspire you as much as it inspired us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more meaningful stories like this one. And most importantly, share this story with friends, especially those within the African American community. Together we can pass along these valuable lessons and honor the legacy of resilience, ensuring these stories continue to inspire and empower for generations to come.